NASA complies with the historicity of the Odyssey and Ulysses. The dating of the Homeric epics has been for decades an unsolved puzzle for scientists, but also a big gamble. However, a group of Greek scientists using astrophysics brings Homer's masterpieces closer to their historical dimension. In fact, the research team speaks of a historical core to the myth, which seems to be confirmed by the use of NASA maps. As a Greek report says, many of the natural phenomena described in the works seems to have happened in reality, which simply means that those who argue that Homer's heroes were real people are gaining ground. In fact, the research team speaks of a historical core to the myth, which seems to be confirmed by the use of NASA's maps. According to the report of Matthew Tsimitakis, this is the most accurate dating attempt so far, which compares the natural phenomena described in the epics with astronomical phenomena and checks the historical truth of the narrative. Results: the identification of dates for events recorded in the epics and a new understanding of their historicity, which aspires to intervene in the Homeric question. As Mrs. Panayota Perka Papadima, professor of astrophysics at the University of Athens, emphasizes in the paper, we believe that the myth is woven around real events. She, along with an interdisciplinary team who made relevant publications in international scientific journals, believe that some of the events described really happened and prove that the natural phenomena mentioned coincide with the time of their narration. Ulysses arrived in Ithaca October 25th, 1207 BC. 5 days later, there was a 75% solar eclipse, which covered the Ionian Sea, that's between Greece and Italy. And that's when the betrothal took place, says Mrs. Papadima, clarifying that the belief in the truth of the event is personal. The solar eclipse, as well as some of the events mentioned, were proven by NASA maps, which describe the predictable natural phenomena since 4500 BC to 10,000 AD, the report further states. Since 1300 BC until 1130, which are the years in which the two epics are set, there were 14 solar eclipses. Only 5 were visible in the Ionian Sea, and 2 of them had a solar obscuration rate of 2%, so they were not noticed. Another one had happened at sunset, so we are only concerned about 2, explains Mrs. Papadima. The total eclipse of the sun took place in 1143, that is very close to the decline of the Mycenaean centers, and that is why it was excluded by the scientists. The second, however, took place on October 30th, 1207, from 2:30 in the afternoon to 5:30 in the afternoon, and this one is considered to be recorded in the Odyssey. In Rhapsody Y, just before the murder, Homer has Themistocleus, the Theodiomatari, as Kazanzaki calls him in the translation, say to the suitors, "What evil afflicts you, unfortunate ones? And the heads have also lived in the night your faces and low knees. And a fire was lit, and your cheeks were filled with tears, and the walls were sprinkled with blood, and the doorways were sprinkled. The gate was also flooded with shadows, and the courtyard was flooded with shadows, which begin to descend in the black tricota, and the laughter from the heavens disappeared, and spread heavy gloom all over." It's a description of the eclipse which hid 3/4 of the solar disk, says Mrs. Papadima. The date of the eclipse, October 30th, 1207 BC, is in perfect agreement with Homeric descriptions of weather conditions, autumnal auroral life, and the midday time of killing the suitors, according to Mrs. Papadima. The interdisciplinary team researched the epics consist of professors S. Papamarinopoulos, P. Perka Papadimas, assistant professor astrophysics at ECPA, and researcher Antonopoulos, physicist and amateur astronomer, Mitro Petru, philologist and educator, Mitro Petru, philologist and archaeologist, Tsironis, also philologist, archaeologist, and G. Sanadidis, writer, electrical engineer. There is a historical core to the myth. Regarding the question of whether everything described in the epics is metaphorical or literal, Mrs. Perka Papadima emphasizes that the answer is given by Plutarch, who explains that physical science, theology, and mythology are the same in ancient Greece. The phenomenon in the Odyssey is created by Athena, and in the Iliad by Apollo. We believe that there is a historical core to the myth, she says. For inspiration, she mentions the appearance of a shower of flying stars, described as follows. I guess they're, meteorites. So they flew right-handed vulture, Circus, Apollo, swift angel. On his feet he was flying, and on his wings Telemachus was a messenger. The falcon described by Homer, which it is impossible for him to have seen in detail, as in the dark and even from afar, it's placed in the position where the constellation Korakas is located. The Korakas meaning crow. It's located in the east, looking to the right, and is a messenger of Apollo, according to Eratosthenes. At his feet, hence anti-diametrically from Korakas, is a flock of Pleiades. Pleiades in ancient Greek meaning wild doves, which are in the constellation Taurus. From there he says that feathers, hence stars, fall, a poetic description of the sky and the course of the journey, she explains. As the publication states, scientists using NASA maps found that there was indeed a shooting star shower on October 28, the day Telemachus returned from his trip to Pylos and Sparta. Korakas, however, is an envoy of Apollo and a good omen for Telemachus, who's looking for his father. The 30th of October was the day of Apollo's feast day, during which there was a sacrifice of 100 oxen that took place, which means that the whole island had gone to watch it. The suitors were caught in the perfect trap and killed with the help of two gods, Athena and Apollo. According to the scientists, as reported by CNN News, two such important news, such as the murder of all the successors in Ithaca, all the suitors, and the eclipse cannot be spread rapidly throughout Greece as an extremely important event. However, if we take into account NASA, it becomes clear that the eclipse maps are not evidence for the historicity of a treaty. Therefore, the connection of the eclipses recorded by NASA in 1207 BC is not a presumption which proves that certainly the temporal location of Ulysses, let alone proves his existence as a historical person. It would also be remiss if we did not mention that the eclipse of the sun is often used as a poetic license while indicating a bad omen, as in Rhapsody Y. Regarding the maps, the discussion is about the study entitled A New Astronomical Dating of Ullysses' Return to Ithaca, as in the Odyssey. That is, a new astronomical dating of the return of Ulysses to Ithaca. The study researchers attempted to date the existence of Ulysses by comparing natural phenomena described in the Homeric epics with astronomical phenomena recorded and confirmed by NASA. And this I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.